But there is an important pre-selection in the Liberal National Party, Annabelle, to be determined today.
Yep, that's the pre-selection in Peter Slipper's seat of Fisher. And there's an interesting story in the Sunday Telegraph today where Samantha Maiden reports that the best-known candidate, I guess, for Peter Slipper's seat is Brough, the former Howard-era Cabinet Minister. But he's being challenged by James McGrath, who is the campaign director and state director of the Queensland Liberal Party. He used to be the deputy national director in Malcolm Turnbull's period of leadership nationally. Is a bit of a poster boy in Queensland these days. He's done very well at the federal 2010 election and also at the recent Liberal state election, and has chosen to contest the seat of Fisher and take on Brough rather than any other seat. And he's getting some pretty high-level support from people like Julie Bishop, Malcolm Turnbull, Joe Hockey, and also the Queensland Premier Campbell Newman, which suggests that Brough's return is not going to be a rails run. Now, the exciting thing about Liberal Party pre-selections is that they are genuinely quite unpredictable, so no certainty.
So we won't try and predict it, but Brough, of course, had the support of John Howard and Tony Abbott, Piers.
That's right, Barry. I think that what you see here is the sort of contest we are seeing increasingly, where you have a person who's come up through the ranks of the staffers and through the party machine as a schmoozer, as a fixer, as a
tactician.
Tactician,
what he is.
Apparatchik, as Gerard correctly says, opposed to an individual with a very sound record, a very respected record, and with the backing of the most respected Prime Minister since Menzies.
It's very hard to tell which way you're going here, Piers.
Right,
Could you clarify?
Annabelle? Well, stay with me. This isn't a cooking show.
Oh, so Piers.
I think that this is what the pre-selectors will have to weigh up. And it is going to be a very long thing because there are an extraordinary number of candidates putting
The other thing that they'll have to weigh up, and I'll get your views on this, Jared, but that's on the question of whether Brough's involvement in the Peter Slipper matter will be an issue.
Yes.
And whether that be on their minds. This is what Tony Abbott had to say about that.
I think that he's been very upfront about his involvement. He went public with his involvement, and I think that in the end the pre-selection is a matter for the pre-selectors, but I want to make it clear that Mal has been very upfront about his involvement in this.
Now, he was upfront about some of his involvement, but of course, as the story continues on, we hear more about it all the way along.
Yes, he's had some involvement. I don't think there's any great causal relationship here because everyone understands that Peter Slipper was never going to win this seat, so in a sense that's off at the margin. One point I would make about the report in today's Telegraph, I mean, the suggestion that James McGrath won the election for the Liberal National Party or that he won all these seats in the last federal elections is a huge overstatement. I mean, what about people like David Russell in Queensland who helped get the LNP off the ground? Or what about Campbell Newman himself? Or what just about the general political climate that Tony Abbott helped create in Queensland before the last election? I mean, this idea that without James McGrath, that the Liberals would be in opposition in the Liberal National Party would be in opposition in Queensland is a bit far-fetched, I think.
Oh, given the result, I think so. But Annabelle, what happens though, and is this the risk, is that if it is found that the James Ashby's case against Peter Slipper has no merit and it's dismissed, how does Brough then look given his involvement?
Well, it doesn't affect his candidacy for the Liberal National Party. I mean, I think, as Jared points out, Slipper was in the departure lounge in that sense before the allegations from James Ashby came up. I mean, a certain amount of opprobrium attracts itself to him for a kind of putatively crossing the floor and becoming the Deputy Speaker anyway. So, I mean, it doesn't mean anything for Brough if he were in terms of his capacity to be the Liberal pre-selected candidate for Fisher. I think that depending on which way the court goes on all of the government's assertions about this, conspiracy to stain the political reputation or bring down the Speaker, I think on balance you'd rather not be involved in that sort of discussion or case, but I don't think there's any question of
I think Brough's involvement has been to give Ashby the advice that he needs a legal opinion. and that strikes me as being perfectly sound. And Barry, I'm sure it's the sort of advice that you would give a fellow who claims that he was sexually harassed by a prominent individual. I mean, you're not equipped and I'm not equipped, and so, but you say, go and see a lawyer.
I think once you get to the point where you're forwarding people's CVs around and that sort of thing, I'm not saying that there's any particular offence. I'm not saying it's an offence. I'm just saying that there are plenty of people in the Liberal National Party there who wisely decided to steer away from that because it's sticky. It gets sticky, and you're probably best not being openly associated.
And why Mel Brough? You could have gone to any one of hundreds of people. Why Mel
Well, he
Brough?
would have known Mel Brough as a high-profile former member for that area. It's not unusual to do that. And as for sending CVs around, I mean, we all do that. I mean, I've sent a few CVs around in my time to help people out. If you think they're good people, there's nothing particularly wrong with that. I mean, the whole point was that Slipper was never going to win this seat. So I don't understand why this is particularly relevant.
All right, well, and we will move on that note. That's the Sunday papers, and we'll go straight to our program.